So a few years ago, a friend of mine was sitting for his interview. It was our college placement season, and he was in the interview waiting room. It was a technical interview, so he was going over the details in his head, the books he'd read, the textbooks he'd worked on, the list of popular questions he had made, asking his seniors, the usual questions that you tend to ask, क्या पूछते हैं interview में, on those lines. And he read up on details of the company. The company, it was a large energy company. They were offering a very good project management role, which was a rare profile, so there were a lot of people applying for it, very competitive. So he was reading up, he read up on all this. He had a very good GPA. In all likelihood, he would get the job. He was going over all the potential questions in his mind, and that was his preparation. Now, when I was in my first year, a college senior, he told me this quote. There's this quote by him. I've carried it with me for the rest of my life because of that's how profound it was. He said, when you go to an interview, it's not about going there to be asked questions by the interviewer and to answer them accordingly. It's more than that. It's about trying to build a working relationship with your interviewer. And by working relationship, I mean, you try to encourage the interviewer to tell you to believe that you are a viable candidate. You can work with me. See, we can have a good conversation. You'll be able to convey things to me, and I can convey things to you. Now, in my opinion, this was profound. You know why? Because more than just technical proficiency, more than just textbook knowledge, it was focusing on how teamwork actually makes for better organizations. So, this was one very profound quote, and it's something I should tell all my juniors. Focus on the questions, focus on the conversation more than the questions. Now, a few years ago again, there was this term which came up. It came up in a lot of media agencies. It came up in a lot of conferences. It was widely used. It became like a new buzzword for a point in time around from 2006 to 2009. It was called employability. And I'm sure everyone's heard of employability, the term somewhere. It comes up in most entrepreneurship, startup competitions. Somebody talks about, the employability of India is currently only 80%. Only 47% of Indian graduates are employable. So, I mean, the figures change. Every year there's one article in some newsletter, in some magazine, that X percentage of Indian graduates are unemployable. Not a single one of these news agencies, media agencies, magazines will have a pathway as to what can be done. It's a lament. It's a cribbing every year. Okay, this is how it is. That's all. There was an article in the Hindu, I believe, a while back, on how 80% of Indian graduates are unemployable. Some have 47%. It almost never matters. I mean, there's never been anything more substantive on that. So, in fact, one of the major issues we saw with employability was a few years ago, I was convening a panel discussion. There was a conference on manufacturing competitiveness in my college. And the panel was comprised of top professors from top colleges in and around Mumbai, largely management colleges and engineering colleges. And being convener, I put across a topic of discussion. I said, what about employability of Indian graduates? We always hear they're not employable enough. Now, the response I got stunned me. A professor stands up and says, I don't believe that. I believe Indian graduates are employable. Why else would industry be hiring them? Now, that shocked me because I know that's not true. I wasn't employable when I graduated. Most people I know weren't employable when they graduated. Because the focus that we had been, the entire focus of our education was to ensure we clear exams, to ensure we have a certain set of, there's a continuous lament on the education academic system. I won't bore you with the details. But going back to my friend's interview, I'd like to highlight 3 points here, which I'll take up going further. Point number 1, his entire preparation was on the basis of textbooks which many in industry believe to be outdated. The details, the machines he's worked with, etc., etc. My college has a ancient-looking electrical machines lab. The motor there is probably it's older than my grandfather. So that was one aspect. Aspect number 2, a lot of what he had gained, a lot of what he was, all his inputs in aiming for the interview were from seniors. Do this, read that. His entire focus was interview driven. There was no focus on what he would do once he landed the job, how he would better handle the challenges that the job posed before him. Because as they say in every IT recruitment, training to hai. Because you may not be a very good coder, but IT companies don't really hire coders anymore. They hire everybody, and you have a 1-year training period. He got the job, of course, but again, job readiness was a factor here. Now, what he was doing as part of the interview was cramming all the details. He understood what he had to, focused on the interview, cleared it because he had a preset, list of all the questions they might ask. He had prepared for each question, and they, as predictably, asked questions within that framework. Now, when we worked with engineering employability, when we looked it up, when we read up on it, when we tried to see what we could do, we're a consulting firm, so we decided to focus on problem solving. We found the fundamental flaw in employability in India was not the academic system as much. Of course, to a certain degree, yes. But to a very large degree, the issues with employability come from within. I'm not trying to be very Buddhist here. I mean, change does come from within, but a very large aspect was how students perceive themselves with respect to employment. It's a very narrow approach. If I do this, I have the grades. It's like a checklist. I have the grades. I've memorized these are the questions that they're going to ask. This is what they usually expect. And this is the salary they're offering. Wonderful, I'm in. And this is how most people do get jobs, because companies know they're going to spend a few millions after that on training their entire crop of graduates. Even industry has never, I mean to say academia, even industry has never ever explored the possibility of reducing their training costs by working with institutes to improve employability. So the fundamental flaw we found was the approach itself was oriented towards basic employment. The next immediate obstacle, the interview. And while we focused on this through our work in consulting, we realized there's not much difference between a consulting pitch and an interview for a job. We ask ourselves 3 questions, I call it the 3 golden questions. 3 questions when we go for a pitch, when we're preparing a pitch. Question number 1, what can we, or in the case of a student, what can a student or a candidate do? What ability, skills does he bring to the table that will enable him, her, to help the company improve sales? While I was drafting these questions, instead of company in my head, it was client. What can you do to help the company improve sales? Approach number 2, what ability can you bring to the table that helps the company improve its effectiveness or its efficiency in the way it delivers its products and services? It boils down to that, right? And question number 3, what can we build? What product can we build? What service can we offer or add that the company can go ahead and sell? Because at the end of the day, the company has to make money. So as a candidate, if you move your attitude from simply focusing on the interview and how you can impress your interviewer, to how you can convince your interviewer why they should hire you. You move simply from will be good for my resume, let's do this, to employers begging you to join their enterprise. It's a paradigm shift. And you can't do that sitting in the interview or before the interview. Okay, can I tell them, can I sell them this? Can I sell them that? No. It's an approach that you ingrain right from the time you're in your first year. Because that changes your academic approach drastically. Because the moment you're thinking about creating value via sales, creating value via efficiency or effectivity, or creating value via, how do I put it, product development, your approach is attuned entirely towards a value-driven philosophy. Large management words, but think about this. Can I sell for you? Can I sell better for you? Can I improve the way you sell? Can I build something that you can sell? You get these 3 things in place, you don't want the job then, the job wants you. This is one thing we observed because it's the same approach we go into consulting pitches with. Now, while we're building a framework for employability, we had 3 things in mind. One was an information availability of skill set. Now, I'm in my first year. I want to help companies sell better. I want to work in semiconductors. I want to help my company sell semiconductors better. What do? I don't know. My seniors will tell my immediate seniors who never adopted this approach, will tell me what subjects to focus on, what question papers to answer, which lectures to attend, which not to attend. Because I think that's the median of conversation we have with our seniors, largely. I know I did. Because they said, oh, first year, you don't have to attend. Because I think they wanted volunteers for their college festivals and I got caught. It happens. And what we realized was information availability is important. So we need to bring in a framework where all the skills are available. Okay, you get X, Y, Z skill, you're employable here. You can tell the guy, you know what, hire me, if you want to, that is. The approach changes. Because the moment you focus on these three aspects, you're selling yourself as an asset. Not as someone they will bring on as, there's some companies actually, I won't take names, but my sister's college used to refer to them this way. Oh yeah, this company, they come to college, they get a truck, they fill students in and they go away. Because that's how they hire people. And from what I know, most of them end up sitting on a bench with no project for months together. You're not selling yourself here. They're a resource. Try turning into an asset from a resource. So second aspect of our framework was mentorship. Very important aspect. We realized every single person looks up to their seniors. We designed a mentorship framework by which you will expect and understand what skills will be required in job A, job B, job C, and how you can go about getting those skills. And that starts from your first year. It's an approach change, simply an approach change. You can't include that in your academics, because if we actually approach the ministry or the university to get your academic syllabus changed, I believe you guys have problems getting permissions for rooms and for events. I believe this will be a significantly larger endeavor. So we realized what we have to do is it has to be additional, it has to be co-curricular more than anything else. So this is the AV setup. Mentorship, information availability, and a constant feedback with industry. The framework we developed had a yearly feedback session where and this has to be decentralized. You can't have one person doing it for the entire college. It has to be one person doing it per class. We thought one person per class can stay in touch with somebody in the alumni who's working, someone in industry. Most of them tend to answer phone calls and emails. They're not that inaccessible. And ask. And very important thing is asking, what can we do? What can we learn that will make you want to hire us after 4 years? That brings me to relevance. While we were focusing on employability and understanding employability, we realized this is a very basic concept. These 3 questions, you asking yourself that from your first year to your 4th year. After 4th year, what do you do? Postgrad, you relax, you take up maybe a couple of Coursera courses. That's the norm. Take up a few certificate courses. Important. But how many people are doing it with the importance of staying in the competition for tomorrow? Because we realized employability is short-lived. Employability will get you a job 5 years to 10 years after you graduated. What about after that? What happens when your job ceases to be relevant? Relevance was a very key aspect of what we ingrained while we were developing a framework for employability. Because these 3 questions have to be sustained throughout your life. Because as you know, again, this is something that happens every year. Every single startup event, every single entrepreneurship event, they have these infographics with so many jobs, new jobs will be created by 2030. It's always 2030. I'm pretty sure it'll be 2030, even in 2030. And so many jobs will be created, so many jobs will be changed, so many jobs won't exist because of automation and AI. Forget automation and AI. Even if without automation and AI, lots of industries are disappearing. Not companies, industries. Kodak. How many people use a tape camera anymore? The watches are now largely, they're ceasing to be a utilitarian item. They're more of a decorative item now. With time, they'll probably cease to be that too. Because why do you need a dial on it? I mean, it's a fashion choice, and fashion choices don't last. They have a low shelf life. So what do you do to be relevant? What we asked ourselves. We had a incident actually. There's a company I know, a friend of mine from college started. It's a design company. They call themselves design process improvement. They call themselves a design process improvement company. Very plain name for basically saying we can reduce your design process time by 90%, which effectively deems more than half of your design engineering staff moot. Not draftsmen, not blue collar labor, design engineers. They've developed some kind of a configurator, and he's very matter of fact about it, but the revolutionary idea is that it's already started to change. Now, we can combat this in the next 10 to 15 years. What do you do when you're irrelevant in your 40s? What do you do when you're 45, you've accumulated a lifetime of skills, and tomorrow there's a new innovation and your industry is kaput? You stay aware, you keep asking yourself these questions. Because at the end of the day, it is the awareness that you have to change, the awareness that you have to, a rolling stone never gathers moss. The awareness that you have to change becomes more of a priority, which is something human beings lack. It's not restricted to a culture, it's not restricted to a group of people, it's a human thing. So, what we realized was, in a larger scheme of things, relevance will be nothing but employability over and over again. Again, someone spoke about rejecting employability altogether and getting into entrepreneurship. You have to be relevant there too. There are 200 people starting a company with e-commerce. There are at least 20 to 30 fashion startups with a rent fashion idea. There are about 4 or 5 food delivery companies. One of them has gone kaput. One of the very popular ones has gone kaput. How do you remain relevant? You ask. It's always a pull system. You ask. You ask these 3 questions over and over again. Everything you do, right through your academics, the moment you realize there's something you can do, can deliver something for someone, there you go. Whether it's a business, whether it's employment, whether it's adding value to research for that matter, this is the way to go. So the industry, the competition today is not just employability. The competition today is not just your classmate. The competition today is not just your office teammate. It's another industry. It's a garage somewhere, which is basically saying your entire glass-doored company means nothing anymore. And it's happening. It's happening as I speak. I didn't believe it. There was this AI summit at the Center for Development Software Technology, Bombay, about a few months ago. I'm not a software engineer. I wouldn't know. But we just went along for the curiosity. They've developed, IIT Bombay startups, they've developed some kind of a tool, so minor device, which has basically made radiology redundant. They're working on it. It's almost patent ready from what I know. And after a few trials and the X number of trials, it'll be market ready. And you won't need radiologists anymore. Now that's a very, very, very significant profession. You study quite a bit to get into a radiology profession. It's a well-qualified profession. It's not unskilled. It's a very highly skilled profession. So what is a radiologist in his 30s going to do? He can't teach radiology. I mean, the general joke with actors is when actors cease to be relevant, they start teaching. Holds true for most professions, although I like to teach as well. I'm not redundant yet. I hope I'm making my point clear here. Redundancy will happen to you no matter where you are. How you combat it is through better introspection, better approach, and that does not come tomorrow. That does not come at the end. That does not come when the problem hits you. It comes when you're trying to improve yourself continuously. It's what the Japanese do, continuous improvement, Kaizen. And that's my piece.